two to let more people join. What's up, Sedge? Yeah, just checking my audio settings, making sure you guys can hear me. If you can hear me okay, let me know. I've got it playing on my big screen. Sweet. Is the audio okay for you? Sweet. Is the audio okay for you? Awesome. All right. This is the Camp Zombie live stream. Welcome to those who are here. My name is Kyle Gentry. If you're here, the people that are watching are probably fans of mine already and just wanted to make a new series. I figured why not create a live stream series that has to do with the creation of a show. So I came up with this idea of this fictitious TV show called Camp Zombie. And we're going to be exploring week to week how I create characters for specific aspects of the show, the environments of the show, the world of the show, the look of the show, things like that, and everything that entails. So I figured tonight we'd just start off with something fun with the main characters like normal. So a couple weeks ago, I did a piece of art that had, when I was germinating this idea, I had a piece of art that I created. And this was it. So I just came up with these characters and thought it would be fun to give myself a project. Like, that's what artists do. They give themselves projects, especially in downtime right now. I've got client work, which is awesome. Can't talk about it, non-disclosure agreement and all that. But I figured, why not show my passion through this series? So I came up with this idea of this camp that is set in either the Everglades in Florida, most likely, or the Bayou in Louisiana. But I think I'm going to keep it in the Everglades. But I figured I would go through like the technical aspects of what it is like for me to get a show like this going, and like if a client gave to me what I would be getting from a client, pardon me, that would help me start off in the characters, and basically what I would be getting if it was just the characters right now. We'll get to the environments and the buildings and the style of the show and things like that later, but I figured tonight we'll just focus on the characters. But I get what's called a brief, and a brief is a description for me so that I know where to start with all the sketches and things like that. And I'll start on one character at a time, and I'll do hundreds of really simple little thumbnail sketches. And I'm bypassing a lot of that. I'm going to give myself a little bit of artwork to start start with every session, because you don't want to see me just go sketch after sketch after sketch after sketch after sketch of just rough, rough, rough. You want me to start somewhere better. So a brief will be something like this. I'll start with the likable kid, the kid that everybody can associate with on as the main character, the main relatable character, the one that you see the story through. And his name is Venny. And Venny is it says here, likable Brooklyn kid, so he's from Brooklyn. He's Italian descent, a little bit of that lineage going on, a little bit of that accent going on. He acts cool, but he's really unsure of himself deep down. That plays into his character. It's the self-conscious thing really plays into his posture, things like that. Loves baseball. He's got a thing for baseball. He's very small for his age, and that plays into his personality a lot because that plays into how he is portrayed. And he's got a very curious and sneaky mind. So he's got a little bit of a bravado thing going. He's a little, scared to show his real self, things like that. All that kind of plays into the back of my mind when I'm creating a character. So the initial sketch I did of him looked like that. And I really like this direction. Those of you that know my work know that I can be incredibly detailed with my work. And since this is an animated show for kids, I figured why not, I'm going to simplify it, bring it back down to the basics again. And as in everything else, as in other videos I've said, shape is everything. Shape language is everything. It says everything you need to know about a character. And this shape, this egg shape, was perfect because it's soft and relatable and breakable. And that's kind of a cool thing to have going with your main character. Like, so, it's got a lot of definition about him. A little bit of angles going on with the hat, things like that. Like I said, this is rough sketch. This is somewhere in the middle of a design phase, really. This is after I've gotten through all the rough sketches and things like that. So this is where we're going to start with him. I'll show you a few of the other characters. I've got a whole cast of them that I'll introduce, and you'll see me design as we go along and things like that. But this is a good starting point. And I may stay close to this design because I really like it, but I'm going to play around with expressions and body and things like that. So one of the other characters that I am putting in there is one of the camp counselors, and his name is Edsel. And Edsel NT. The last two initials is kind of a unique thing. It should be a lot of fun. But he is one of these overachieving, super positive, in-your-face kind of guys, and he's a camp counselor. He's the head counselor. He strives for excellence. Play on words. Stuff like that works really well, and it can really play into a good storyline. He's always overly positive. He's kind, but he pushes you really hard, sometimes overly so, with kindness. He's one of those people. Everything has a place. He's got a bit of OCD. And he loves schedules. He's that kind of guy. He loves schedules. So this is the rough sketch for Edsel. And he's just a blast. He was a lot of fun to draw. This kind of oblong shape, and the design style. I'm going to keep their legs kind of spread wide apart, and it affects how they would walk and how they're animated and things like that. I like the idea of informing the animator of how they move through their body shape, and that's important. The style from the characters is also going to lend itself to the background. Now, on a regular show, you're going to have people designing all aspects and people that specialize in backgrounds and things like that. And I've done a little bit of all of it throughout my career. I enjoy characters the most, but we're going to have a lot of fun doing backgrounds as well too. So just stay tuned for that. One of them that I don't have on here yet, and we'll sketch her tonight. Her name is Donna, D-A-W-N-A, Donna. And I pull from my history of people that I knew and that I was friends with. And when I was at my art college, I went to the Ringling School of Art and Design. When I was at art college, there was one girl that I knew for 1 year. She was only there for 1 year. Really sweet woman. She called her husband her sugar boo. She was a non-traditional student, meaning she was over 25. She had an 8-year-old son at home, and she and I got along really well. And I decided to create a character named after her. in here, and here's Donna's brief. So she's African American, as my friend was. And when she would stand down the parking lot for me, she would say, "Hey, Kyle," and I could hear her half a mile away, and I would say, "Hey, Donna." So I'm like, that would be great to build that into a character. So that's part of her attitude. And she's, obviously right here it says attitude, big attitude. She loves playing pranks. She's passive aggressive, which is a little bit of a deviation off of my friend. But she's a hair accessory enthusiast, so we're going to play a lot with that with her design. She's tall for her age. I'm really pushing that with Venny because she's good friends with Venny. Might have a little crush on him, but she's much taller than him, and that plays to a little bit of his inferiority. He's very he's got inferiority complex. He's supposed to be tough. He's from Brooklyn, and his parents sent him down to this camp and in the Everglades of all places, and he befriends this girl, and she's just this powerhouse of energy and attitude. And she's also Edsel's niece, so she gets to go to the camp for free. All the other kids' parents pay for it. She gets to go for free, so she's got a little bit of attitude there. She's a little bit of a little fashionista going on, but she's going to be a lot of fun to draw. And then tonight, the other character I'm introducing is the actual zombie of Camp Zombie. His name is Mr. Lurkin. And a slang word for zombies in a lot of lore is they're lurkers. And I thought, what a way to play with words in the writing of it. And that would be a lot of fun. So is Mr. Lurkin. His first name is Ben, so he's Ben Lurkin. And those of you who follow my Macabre McMorbidly art print series and see the bios know that I love to play with words and names and especially a little bit of the kind of mysterious, not horror specifically, but mysterious Scooby-Doo-esque kind of mystery stuff. So his story is this. He was the camp cook 50 years before the kids were there. He is thought to be a myth. The kids, he's one of those people that at a camp, you hear the legend of so-and-so. Well, this is the legend of Mr. Lurkin, and they tell campfire stories about him and everything. The kids do. The counselors don't pay much attention to it, and that plays into the story well. So the reason he turned into a zombie is it's not the traditional, like he got bit by one or it was something mysterious. He doesn't crave brains. He craves dessert. That's his deal. He craves dessert. He's an undead dessert craving monster. Not really a monster. He's a nice guy. But he ate 6-year past expiration date Patootie to Fruity Ripple with espresso chip ice cream. That is also a throwback to my past at art school. I had a friend there who me and several friends would go to Denny's at like 2 in the morning after I would get off work. The first summer I was there, I worked at an ice cream shop, and we would joke and hang out and things like that, just kind of wind down. And somehow Patootie to Fruity came out of Tutti Frutti ice cream, and we joked about this. And I'm like, well, what a great way to incorporate that. So he's been in the kitchen cellar, I guess frozen or buried or something like that. I'm still working that out in the story, and we'll discover that together. He's been reawakened by the kids. They go down there with their ice cream, and he craves dessert. He craves ice cream and all that stuff, so it kind of wakes him up, and they find this little hidey hole in this cellar. And the kids befriend him and learn about him, and he does talk, but it's one of those kind of slow, kind of a things, and he's very stiff. But you can play a lot with him, and he's a really nice guy. So he is the MacGuffin, as it were, of the entire show. He's what everybody is searching for in this legend and things like that. The kids found him, but they've got to hide him because they don't want anybody else to find out about him. So they get him hired on the camp as the new cook, even though he's been there the entire time. And the counselors suspect he's a little weird, but they don't know what's really going on with him. And the kids have to keep this secret hidden. And this is the design I came up with for him initially. I like it. There's obviously a lot of improvement on it. This was just a first attempt, and that's what character design is. It's an attempt. A lot of attempts until you arrive at the truth of that character. And that's the way I see it. You're trying to get to the truth of who that character is. And I know that sounds deep because it's a kid's show, but it's not really deep. Kids know truth when they hear it. And they know when adults are BSing them. They can tell pretty well. And I think visually they can too. They can tell when a show is good or not. That's why some shows success, some shows fail. If the artists that are creating the show are truthful about their characters and truthful about their storyline and aren't affected so much by the corporate people, then they'll know it. And the storytelling's good. You can always tell when a show's been taken over by the corporate people instead of the artists that created it because the show tanks in the ratings. And I just trying to go about this in the logical way about creating characters. That's how I feel when I'm creating them. I'm getting the story through visually. And the only thing I should have done with him is I should have had him holding like an ice cream scoop or a ice cream cone of some kind. That would be that way. So what we're going to do is, since I haven't got a drawing of Donna yet, an initial drawing yet, we're going to do a little bit of exploration on her tonight and a bit more on Mr. Lorcan, because he's getting there. I like his head and I like a little tiny thing here and there, but we're going to sketch around and play with that some more. So anyway, let me go back down, get rid of these, go up to Donna. And we're gonna have a lot of fun with her. Let me do a little maintenance here. I like to group everything together as much as possible when I'm doing this kind of thing, so it's just easier. So, all right, so the brief says, taller than her age, she's African American. She's a hair accessory enthusiast, so we're gonna play with that a little bit. All right. So, going off of Venny as the initial design character, we're going to use him as the anchor point for the design of the rest, because he was the first drawing I did and I really liked the way he came out so much that we're going to use him as the basis for everything else, including Mr. Lorcan. I should have drawn him first, but I had to draw the person who's telling the story first, and that's the little boy. I don't have last names for him yet. We're not there yet. But as I draw, I might not talk as much, because I like to concentrate on what I'm doing, but because it's a live stream, I will make the attempt to focus a little bit more on answering questions. So if any of you that are watching right now have questions, feel free, and I will answer them as soon as I see them. There's a little bit of delay, but it should be fine. So we'll get to it, all right? So this is Donna. Let me make him a little bit smaller here so I can have a little more room to play around him. If you have any questions about the program or anything I'm using, please feel free. I'm using Clip Studio Paint. I use a variety of programs, but Clip Studio Paint is my go-to. So let's go to Donna. So he's got this egg shape. She's taller than he is, so we have to use him as a base point to figure out her height. So let's say if that's the ground, this is the ground plane, like this line here, under here. We're going to continue that out just a little bit so I have a starting point. All right, so a little bit taller would be around here, right? So lines and basic shapes, as always. Plus, Edsel, her uncle, is a bit taller, so we're using that as a jumping point as well. And this is just the initial sketch. I might change a lot. I don't know yet. Wide legs. Remember those wide legs. Attitude. She's got kind of a little bit of an egg going on because I still want that to be there. And let me turn on her uncle so I can see. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so her uncle, like this is his real height a little bit. Let me bring him back down. So he's about like that as an adult. Okay. He's about like that as an adult. And she's got kind of his same hands on hips kind of thing, but with her it's attitude, with him it's determination. And I want that to come through, so I'm going to change the way her head's pointed. So we'll get rid of him for right now. I'll bring him back in a bit. Where did I put her? Let me rename this folder so I can find it. All right, Donna. All right, Donna. So I'm going to go really wild with her hair. I want her to wear the same hat. She doesn't like the hat, but all the kids wear it. And if you'll notice, there's a little thumbs up on the hat. That's the camp logo. I want it to be this really dim, kind of depressing looking camp that has this really hilariously upbeat logo. And, you know, of course, Edsel is so positive working there and things like that. I want it to be really funny. You know, everything kind of in contrast with each other. So everybody's got these thin little kind of spindly legs. They're spread wide apart. At least she does, and he does. It's, again, design continuity is really important. They have to look like they belong in the same world, and there's a bunch of different ways to do that. It's giving everybody the same shape to start with and then augmenting those shapes, and that's how I'm kind of doing it. There's other ways to do it, too, by looking at styles of artists and things like that that you really enjoy and try and apply that. So she's looking up and away, kind of like she's above it all. And the hats are kind of boxy. I wanted to give a feeling of like a trucker's hat, but still have it be this kind of camp hat. See, I'm really liking how this is going. This is fun. So she's got, like I said, attitude. And let me look, since she's Edsel's niece, I'm going to use him. So he's got this tiny little nose. We're going to play with that a little bit. I don't want to stray too far away from him because she's related to him. So he's got those. Those aren't girly enough, you know. She's got, you know, the big eyelashes going on, and I'm going to half close her eyes. And if you notice, there was a girl on the initial page of characters named Terry Ann. She is one of the kind of villainous camp counselors. Yeah, I like the puffs are good. Actually, that's her hair, so it's kind of like jammed down on her head. Like she's got this enormous amount of hair under her hat, and I want to play with that, you know. So she's got accessories, and maybe it's puffs like this, and the accessories are like right here. They're kind of bands. Yeah, that'll work. I like that a lot. So we're going to give her the same nose as Edsel. Maybe flare out her nostrils just a little bit more. And if you'll notice, they've got kind of these big circly eyes, and I like the way Vinnie's are. They leave a little bit of white without any line. I like the line sometimes to be imagined, the lost and found lines. Artists use that idea to imply shape. You'll have a line that gets really thin and then disappears, but your mind understands where the line goes. So that's what I'm trying to do with the eyes. And Edsel, I went a little heavy, partly because of his skin tone. But I'm gonna, and as I'm exploring him, I'm gonna thin back on that a little bit. But we'll have a little bit of fun with her. Yeah. So if you'll notice, Vinnie has like really big pupils. Like he's got a little bit of an iris, but his pupils are like massive, super dilated, because he's just, you know, that's how you achieve that wide-eyed look. If you're trying to draw a really young character, you achieve that wide-eyed look by making the pupils massive and the color around them very thin. She's a little more speculative, so she's got that lip that kind of pouts like that. And she might be skewing a little bit too old. We'll see. And there's ways I can bring that back. There's proportions, but this is a jumping off point. Always a jumping off point. Yeah, that's way too old. So here's one thing I can do. I can take her height down just a little bit. She's still going to be taller than him, but I can take her height down just a little bit, and I can play with the size of her eyes just a little bit. Go back to my tool. Lurking under her hat. Yeah, that's haha. Very funny. Yeah. I may have given her too. In lowering the eyelids like that, without. I need to find what they look like without too much expression yet. Right now, I want to add the expression later on, and that went too far. I need to give it a bit more. Maybe do a poof of hair right here. Problem is she's not cute enough, and there's ways to do that, and I went too far with the severe. So we're gonna give her bigger eyes. Maybe make her a little bit cross-eyed. That'd be fun. Not making fun of cross-eyed people, just character elements. That's all it is character elements. That's better. Can close her eyes just a little bit, but and still imply the maybe give her a little smile instead of the smirk. Let's try this again. And again, it's all experimentation. Now, if I was to do this with a bunch of different sketches for a client, I would do this in 5 different sketches and play with the different elements. But to save time tonight in the video, we're going to jump through this. And I'll explore a lot more later on. This is just the first initial video to get it going. Yeah, too much going on, too much going on. Bigger ears. Now she's looking younger. Sometimes I can capture that right away. That's one of the things I have to work down to almost sometimes, is start off older and then go younger. Yeah, maybe lower her head down even more. There we go. Okay. Because it's about the proportions. I can make her taller in a different way. It's about the proportions. I can give her longer legs down here and raise up her entire body. So let's do that because I like that idea. From the ground plane. There we go. That's much better. Now, Terry Ann, the kind of evil counselor girl, it's always ruining their fun. She's a short, pudgy, unattractive, you know, in her eyes girl, and you know, gotta. You know, she'll have redemptive arcs and things like that. If this was an actual show going on, she would have arcs of redemption in the storylines and things like that to show she's not exactly the meanest person you ever thought. That's just how her personality is. So, yeah, this is real scribbly right now. And for those of you that see a lot of my work, it's a little bit... Some of you actually really like this side of it. I've got several friends that really like this kind of side of my work, to see the real scribbly stuff. And some people really like the really super highly detailed, finished and rendered stuff. And I enjoy both, to be honest. The rendered stuff takes a while, but it starts off looking just like this. Oh yeah, I'm liking this. So I'm going to give her a little bit of the skin tone now. And there's a brush that I have in here that I really like. And in Clip Studio Paint, you can play with your brushes just like you can in any other art program like Photoshop or anything and augment them. I'm not a big fan of Photoshop for painting. I know that's sacrilege to a lot of artists. I love it for effects and text and layout and things like that and color correction, all these different things and all these different photo effects you can do. But actual drawing, hands-on drawing, I'm not a fan. I've yet to find a good tool on there that really feels like a pencil or really feels like a good pen. So, but there's another YouTube streamer at Lost Bear Studios, and he's part of Creature Box, and that's Greg Baldwin and Dave Garten, I think is how his name is pronounced, but and I may have flipped their names accidentally there because I'm trying to focus. But look up Lost Bear Studios. He does a weekly live stream that's amazingly good. And I got these brushes from him. So this is, and I started adding accessories on the wrong layer. Do that all the time. There we go. Okay. You know, I add shapes for the accessories, these kind of wild accessories that you know, she's all about the hair. But her hair is going to be super curly, you know, very, you know, Afrocentric. And this is as much as I'll say about this. I believe it's important for all artists to have a broader mind when it comes to creating characters for shows, because it's not about you creating it is about your vision, but it's also about your audience, and the audience for your shows is much broader and more varied than it used to be. And that's a good way to look at it. I know there's a big pushback for people that are pro we need minorities and everything and too much white and all that stuff. I set all that aside and look at the audience. The audience dictates to me the direction of the design of the show. Where is the audience? Who are you trying to reach? And with kids, that's the most diverse audience you have, so it's important that the kids are represented. So I find it very important that I have, especially with her, you know, like the design of her, the style is the same, but I find other ways to show ethnicity and to show those things. They're important. But going back to the brushes that I got, there's this brush that I got from Lost Bear Studios. They're called newsprint brushes, and he gave them away. He just gave them away on Gumroad. It's a website you can get free brushes off of, and it's amazing. And they're newsprint brushes, and they have this wonderful texture. And I'm going to pick his color because it's really nice. But they have this wonderful texture that looks like newsprint. And let me get closer so you can see it. So you can see kind of this rough quality to his skin. That's just the newsprint right there. And if you'll notice too, I also gave her a very similar stance to her uncle. So we're going to play a lot with that. So let me go back in. And I'm going to erase where it goes over. Like I'm not worried about staying in the lines or anything like that right at the moment. I'll worry about getting rid of the extra stuff in a minute. Yeah, okay. Now, there is this cool tool in Clip Studio Paint. It's right here. You see the two colors, the background color, foreground color, or in Clip Studio Paint, just your two alternate colors. Because that's not background, that's not foreground. They're just two colors you can pick. Below it, it looks like transparency. You click that and it turns any brush in your library into the eraser. Whatever brush you currently have, basically it treats it as an eraser now. So I can go in and it uses that same brush with that same texture and it erases with it. And it's just a cool little trick for those that are using Clip Studio. And this works on iPad too. The Clip Studio Paint version of iPad is just as involved as this is. Yeah, let me get rid of a little something right there. There we go. Okay. So, and then I just go back up the color. Now I have buttons on my pen that I can set. They're just one click and a two click, and I can set those. And what I've done is I've set them so that I can switch between the two colors, and then the back button switches me to that alternate, so I don't have to click it every time. I can just hit the button and it switches it for me. Just a little quick quick thing. And this brush is also cool because it senses how hard you're pressing. And you can create shadows within. And I went a little too hard to be able to do that here, but I'll give her some color in her eyes here. Just a little bit. Darken it just a little bit more for her lips. An eyeshadow. Yep, that's where I also made a mistake with her age, is I gave her too many lines around her eyes. The more lines you add, the older somebody looks. Just the way it is. You want somebody to look young, keep as many lines off the face as possible. Keep it as simple as humanly possible. That's the best way to do it. All right, going back to my rough pencil. And we'll explore more with her as well. This is just, like I said, the initial sketch, and this whole series is about how to develop characters. This is the jumping off point. She may not look anything like this at the very end. And there is, amongst artists and writers too, this phrase. There are two phrases that are very important. Murder your darlings and don't polish a turd. You can get very attached to a design element in drawing. And I had to do this. I had to learn this the hard way in college, and it's really important. You can get attached to it, but it may not work for what you're trying to do. And in that case, you have to get rid of it. That's the way it goes. And that's called murdering your darlings. It's something that you super care about and you have a hard time letting go of, but you have to let it go. You have to. That's the only way to make it work. Polishing a turd, that's obvious. You know, you can have an aspect of a piece of art that you really like and just keep working on it, working on it, working on it, but the more you work on it, the worse it gets. You, my friend, are polishing a turd. It's... Alright. So, there's Donna, and there's certain things to her that still feel a little too old to me, so I'm going to play just a little bit more, not too much longer, with the eyes, and I might enlarge that just a little bit, because this is the rough sketch. I can get away with doing stuff like this. Yep. I can get away with it, and because this is usually like an underdrawing. You know, the other thing I could do is, and this is one way I play with it, this is one of the great things about digital art, is that you can select an area, copy it, and paste it on another layer, and play with a different design type. Like, I've taken away her eyes. Let me get rid of her skin real quick. So I've taken away her eyes, and I'm going to redraw in a way that, like, you can't do this on paper. So I'm going to use a little bit of a trick, and I'm going to copy Edsel's eyes just as a reference point, because she's his niece. Oops, didn't have it on the right layer. That's his niece, so they should be similar. And you can actually come up with some really, really hilarious stuff here. And it kind of works, because now they look related, and I kind of like the eyes a bit better, so I'll use that as reference. We'll take the opacity down, so I can lower the opacity and use it as an underlayer to draw on top of and really get them in there. And it really does show, though, that her eyebrows are super masculine, so we're going to fix that. Yeah, they're, wow, holy non-feminine eyebrows, Batman. So whoever's watching, if you have any questions, please chirp in. I'm here. If you don't, keep watching. It's cool. No worries at all. All right. So we're gonna lightly go in, and I'm gonna add the female elements. You know, because she's a little bit of a fashionista, so she wants. And this is where I'm going to really play into the lost and found lines. I'm not going to draw all of it. But this definitely makes her look a lot more like his niece. And that's important. Not only does the design element of the show have to fit together, but if somebody's related, there has to be certain character design elements that are relatable between them that aren't relatable with the other characters. And hers are definitely his eyes. His eyes are very... Hey, Dom! How you doing, man? Hers are very relatable. So as we play with her, you can see now that they're related. So same rough nose and all that, but we're going to give her a lot more feminine eyebrows. That's too high. I could be really mean and give her a unibrow, but we're not going to do that. That's mean. All right. I like that better. Going to get rid of these because those didn't work. All right. So we can get rid of this now. There we go. Yeah, see, that's... As I talked before about the truth of the character, this is more in line with the truth through this character. This is what I want to do with her. This is the truth that I'm going to tell through her. Because like I said, kids know when you're BSing them. And I don't want that. I want them to enjoy what I'm doing. I don't want to feel with them to feel cheated in the design or the story or anything else. I want them to relate. And there are girls out that are like this. Yeah, so we're going to take and give her the heavier eyebrows on the edges. Get rid of this real quick. Redraw this. All right. Oh, there we go. You know what? Let's do that again, because that don't work. And I will say that this applies to the literary world too. Like everything I'm talking about is the character creation. It applies to all the stuff that I've done with children's books. Everything. It's wrong layer. Do that all the time. Grab the wrong layer and go to town. With kids' books especially, you know, you've got a single image to tell a story through. That character's not moving, so you have to tell the story in still images and figure out how to make it look like it's moving. It's a separate set of difficulties and challenges, but with the same basic problem. How do you make the character look alive, and how do they appear relatable and real? Yes, she is absolutely a big talker. She is a big mouth. Because remember I said, you know, her name's Donna, but she likes to say it's Donna. Like she gets in your face about it, just like my friend from college. I want this whole mouth to open up like her face is opening up. So I'm laying the groundwork for that now. You know, and these little details like the hair ties, I'll figure that out later. I just want to indicate that she's got a lot going on under there. So we'll spend about another couple of minutes on her, and I was going to try and keep it an hour. Maybe I'll go for an hour and a half, and then I want to look at the actual zombie, Mr. Lurkin himself, and we'll go there. But this is a really good start for her. Like I said, she's got the same kind of stance as her uncle. Everybody wears tennis shoes. I love tennis shoes. It's a camp, after all. And since this is set, I'm pretty much sure this is going to be set in the Everglades. I'm trying to keep it there because I live in Florida, and why not, you know? That'd be hilarious to have a kids camp in the Everglades, because you can play with like somebody having a pet alligator or a shark, because there's salt water there too, and like all kinds of crazy stuff, or you know, and the buildings are going to be, you know, off the ground on stilts with platforms that run in between each building and certain areas of ground they can go on. So you can really play with the dreary kind of atmosphere, but with these really happy kids. So it can be this great contrast in story. All right, so we're going to go with his skin tone again, grab my watercolor, or my newsprint brush, sorry, my newsprint brush. And there's a couple of variations on that, but we're going to keep this particular one right where it's at. And I'm going to, let's go a little lighter with that skin tone. She's younger, I can get away with it. I don't know about bling to the point where she's wearing jewelry everywhere, but imagine it as bling camp style. So she's got everything, you know, she's making macaroni necklaces and things like that, but she has to have the most fabulous ones in the camp, that kind of thing. You know, she's a little bit like her uncle in that she strives for perfection, and when she doesn't find it, she throws a hissy fit. But she's likable, and we all get like that, so makes sense. Let's go a bit darker. This is where I can really play with the translucency of this newsprint brush. So we're going to play with this a little bit. Because I want that hair to be super frizzy. For those of you that know the other stuff I'm doing, there's another show that I did the character design for that's still in pre-production, still trying to get a distributor for it, called The Magic Poof, and it's a little girl who's a mixed race, and she has a ball of magic hair on her head, and I kind of pull a little bit from my experience in drawing and painting her, and can't wait for it to get going. There's some better things on the horizon with her, so we'll see. My client for that project, my friend, really cool guy, and he's working hard getting that going. So there's Donna, and I think that works. She's a little doe-eyed, I think, for what the character really is, but she's a great start to her character. She's tall for her age. She's taller than Venny, who is the main hero character, the most relatable kid, and you know he's a little bit of a fish out of water because he's from Brooklyn. He's in a camp in the Everglades that his parents sends him to every summer. So you've got Venny, you've got Donna, and let me get her name on there so I don't lose it. Rough pencil. Big exclamation point. And now we're going to go to Mr. Lurkin. Let me keep Venny up because that's who I need to relate to. So, let me move him over. Mr. Lurkin's cute, and I need to shrink him down a little bit too because that's not the size I started with him. Mr. Lurkin he's a big dude, you know, he's a big dude, and that's about right there, like as far as size reference goes for him. And this isn't creation. This is the next step in design. This is refining. This is getting all those little, you know, starting to just slightly get more into the detail work in the character and informing how the character would move around. And, you know, you've got these wide legs on every character, and what does that look like? And I have to think about that while I'm designing because animators need to know. When I'm creating a character Bible, which is all of the poses and the turnarounds and, you know, the reference shots for the animators to look at so that they know how the character moves in every situation that they are moving in. I have to be thinking about that when I'm drawing because I don't want to make it too difficult for them, but I still want to get the character to come across in the way that I want them to. So let's put Venny down in the bottom left corner. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Not used to having my keyboard off to the left. Keep him down here, and we'll work on a new Mr. Lurkin over here. I'll work on him pretty big. So this is Ben Lurkin, Mr. Lurkin, and I like pieces of it. you know, I like this kind of shape. Let me get there. Oh, I put the new layer in the wrong group. There we go. Okay. So I like the oblong, you know, you've got these soft curves on the kid, but, you know, he's been undead for 50 years. So he's going to have the same rough shapes, but it's going to be a little bit more angular and worn. And I like that he's got the same hair as the kid. I think that's relatable between the characters because he becomes one of his best friends. And I like that, so I'm going to keep that, but I can play more with the hairnet, and something bothers me about the upper shoulder. You know, little things like that, that's where the next design phase would go. So we're going to keep the hair. And have it kind of plastered to his head. Oh, I like that already, yeah. Kind of this kind of thing where it creeps up. I don't know if anybody saw it, but that really horrible remake of Dark Shadows with Johnny Depp, he had that hair like in the original Dark Shadow series that was plastered to his head. It's kind of like that on the sides. I think that's kind of cool. Like, you know, he's been buried in the cellar for 50 years, and, you know, it's kind of like having a permanent cowlick. Make that hang off and give it more gravity. That's more realistic. More of this gravity. This kind of thing looks like he's wearing like a cheese grater on his head or like a sieve on his head, and I don't want that. I want it to give it weight and shape and volume. And his ears kind of curled over on itself, so I like that part. I'm keeping all the parts that I like, and I'm changing the parts that I don't. So I like that. Looks like part of his face is kind of fallen down a little bit. And we're gonna push the eyebrows, this kind of brow that's right here, because the thing is, when you're dead, your skin kind of shrinks a little bit, and you know, it shrinks in on you a little bit, and it shows more of the skull, things like that. Now, I'm not going to do that with him so much, but I just little tiny things here and there, just little tiny things. So I'm going to pop the brows just a little bit more. And his eyes are completely different from the other characters, so that's something I've got to change. Those lost and found lines on Venny's face, I'm going to change that a bit on Lurkin's face, because he looks like a cartoon character from a different cartoon. When you have that much of a difference, and I don't want that. I don't want that. So I like his nose. Kind of scoopy and kind of going up like that, a little bit of Bob Hopish. I don't want to go too much with it. Too much detail and it gets away from the style again. So we're going to keep the shape right there. Because if you look at Venny's, he's just got a simple little nose. And I know Donna's was a little more detailed, but the eyes work and everything else works. So you can have minor changes. It's these things that are running through my head when I'm making sure that things are cohesive. There we go. Okay. That line may be a little too severe. Like I said, lost and found lines. And this kind of hard angled smile is nice. I like that. He's a nice guy, you know, he just wants dessert. That's all he wants. He just wants his dessert, you know. The 6-year out of date ice cream that he ate that turned him into a zombie has given him this massive craving, and I think it's a great, hilarious story point that you can have a zombie that doesn't crave brains. So as I'm looking down at Venny's eyes, you know, I'm going to go to the pupils first. So we'll keep the small and large pupils, but I noticed too, one other problem that I had was that half the characters that I designed, like Venny's eyes are so dilated you can barely see the eye, like the color around it. And that's okay, because that works on him. I'm changing it for the other characters. This guy, I want you to see a little bit more because his eyes are yellow and it's going to have a dark greenish. You know, and I might change that on Vinny too to make it more. Oh, that's a little too realistic. Holy cow. Okay. Wow. There we go. Maybe make the top a little bit thinner than the bottom. Yeah, that's a lot better. I hope you're not killing yourself too hard with work tonight, Dom. I know everything's busy right now. I was working on some stuff for you earlier today. Got a few pages up there for you. I was going to let you know when I had a few more up. A little too grotesque. Not cute. Want cute. Ooh, like that. Little happy accident of a line. Happens all the time. I always like that kind of specular light right there on the eyes too. That I always was a fan of doing that with my characters. I do it on a lot of them. There we go. Maybe that's a little bit still. Yeah. Sometimes, man, sometimes the lines just happen perfect and sometimes they don't. I'm telling you. I made that other eye too big is the problem. I'm going to make this right about the same size. I'll shrink the other one down. And it's sagging a little too much. I don't know. It's all part of the process. But yeah, he's an endearing kind of a guy. You know, I thought about the whole independent eye movement thing, and that would be really funny. I can show that when I could show it right now. Actually, I could pop this one up here. That works. I like that. That could work really well. So. And following the mouth opening. And this is pretty much how, you know, the other characters all have their mouths closed. So that's something I'll have to, for my own benefit, expound upon a little bit as we go. I don't want to mess around with those too much because I want my lost and found lines there. I want to make the case that he's not stupid. He's just dead. He's actually very intelligent. He speaks very slowly. But it's one of those things where it's really funny where the kids just assume he doesn't know much and they have to reteach him everything. But then he'll pop in to save the day, you know, because he's not dumb. He just can't communicate in the same way that he used to. I like it when we can do little character things like that, where we can show that there are aspects to a character that you don't see right away. So yeah, let's throw up some of the hair netting. That's better. Yeah, that's better than this. This just looks like somebody took a strainer and took the handle off, put it on his head. That's too hard. No gravity to it at all. No weight. So yeah, his shoulder is going to be here. I don't like how high it is over here, so I'm going to pop his collar up a little bit. it's still going to be higher, just not as high. And then we're going to give him his apron. And he's a big guy, so, you know, all that ice cream. That's a lot of ice cream. And I like this idea of this kind of tubby bottom weight to him. Like this pear shape almost. You know, like everybody goes to camp and they think the food's gross, and maybe at this camp it is until they rehire, the kids get this guy rehired, and all of a sudden the food's awesome. So he gets a lot of notoriety, and that makes it even harder for them to hide the fact that he's a zombie. You know, that would be actually really funny. Good story beat. You know, dirty kind of gross, moldy apron, so it's got junk all over it. And I'm only indicating stains here, so. Yeah, this one has more personality. Like, this is a nice plain kind of design. I'm using the same elements of the design. I'm enhancing them, giving them more character, giving the lines breathability. Giving you a better idea of the anatomical proportion of him. He's got some Cruz Francisco hair going on. For those that know my Aliens and Outlaws series, Cruz Francisco, the main character, has a hair that's like 3 feet out from his head. And it's got a little bit of that going on. I always like to reference that because I'm still on that. It's in pre-production with the same client as Magic Poof. So, I'm still working on that. For those that don't know, I go down to Disney once a week and I create character designs out of tourists, even with this current situation we all find ourselves in. But I'm treating it a little differently now. I'm treating it as if I'm creating characters for an animated show. And I'm creating a whole family instead of just drawing people that I see. I'm using them as inspiration to draw direct characters for a possible show. I had to freshen it up because it was getting old the way I was doing it. Everybody needs to change things up every now and again. So we're just going to give him a little bit of shade to the hair. Just a little bit. Yeah, he's a lovable guy. I like him. Now, he's super detailed, and one of those things that I tend to do because I tend to do too much detail up front. I will pull back the detail. I'll do a ton of detail, and then I'll start knocking stuff out as I go. Some people build up. I have to go the other way. Like I said, everybody in this tune is, their feet are really, or their legs are really wide together. Everybody's a little bit bow-legged, which is a hilarious design element. I just thought it'd be fun to play with. You know, he's got kind of those kind of indistinct grayish green, pants on, like you'd see Jason from Friday the 13th wearing or something like that. So one shoulder's up. I drop this shoulder down, and I'm going to put his arm a little bit straight out because this looks like his shoulder's too far back, and I don't like that. I don't like that kind of air. So put a little bit of a rip in his shirt. I like the fact that if he gets hired on as a cook, like, they ignore the fact that he's dressed like really horribly because they just automatically assume that's how the counselors assume that's how all the zombies, or not zombies, how all camp cooks dress. The other thing I'm going to play with too is the main villain, because every series needs a villain. The main villain is the actual camp director, and maybe he's responsible for doing something to the ice cream years before that turned this guy into this, and he really knows who he is. And the kids have to the difficulty of dealing with him on a weekly basis. Be a lot of fun to play with. So, and then the name of the show, it's kind of a double meaning, like, the name of the camp isn't Camp Zombie, but the show kind of indicates that, but it's about the Camp Zombie. And I like it when shows do that kind of play on words, so I decided to incorporate it. Alright, so we're going to shorten his arm over here a little bit. It's a little too long over here compared to the other one. I mean, he's not Frankenstein. He's not built from different parts. It's all him. You know, Frankenstein, I guess, would be considered like the first zombie, but that's not what I'm going for. And we're going to change up what he's holding too. So let's. And maybe, you know, a little less of the undead design arm thing going on. He's a little stiff here. Maybe, you know, he's a little casual. Maybe, you know, it just says something about his character. Maybe he just has his hand in his pocket and he's just really happy to show you his ice cream. You know, and the thing is, designing like this, if you look at him, you think, okay, maybe he's just a country bumpkin. A little bit of a slide going on to his skin right there. It adds a little bit more character. And the color really does a lot. Like the greenish hue to the skin, the yellowish eyes, things like that. That does a lot. Bad teeth. Not because he's undead, but because he eats ice cream all the time or eats dessert all the time. That's his character element to the whole thing. So I would say, if you're enjoying yourselves, definitely, I'll be doing this once a week. Tell your friends, you know, get them involved. I'm trying to get my viewership up, you know, so I can, you know, really go somewhere with this. And it helps if you guys subscribe and, you know, maybe share the video once it's up, because I know YouTube does this thing where they launch it as a video after you're done. Yeah, I like that shape better. He's just kind of too boxy here. It's not fluid in any way, shape, or form. Okay, we're almost there. We'll get a design done. We'll get this design done on him, and then we'll be done for the night, because I want to keep it. I want to keep it at between an hour to an hour and a half, if I can. And there might be some nights where we go longer. You know, and if there's ever a problem and I can't go do the video, like there's been something that's happened, or, you know, illness or something like that, I'll definitely make an announcement on my Facebook page and my Instagram page. Also, too, if you want to see more of my artwork, please go to tkylegentry.com. That's TKYLEGENTRY.com. That's my main gallery. And there are links there to Instagram. I think Instagram? Yeah, here, my store. But on Instagram, it's my handle is TK Gentry Art, so you can follow me on there. But all of my main links are there, and I sell art in an online store. You can go there, get my books, get my art prints. You know, holidays are coming up. You might have somebody that might be into this stuff, and I've got a bunch of stuff. My Morbidly family is really popular. Go check those guys out. I got a new set of those ready to go. So, okay, I'm starting to noodle too much, so. Going to follow a cone shape. Maybe give him a little dainty thing with his pinky sticking out, like. Oh, that's mega pinky. That's like Godzilla's pinky. Yeah, we don't want to do that. There we go. It's kind of boxy, kind of. Yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah, this is definitely better than the ladle. Just basic shapes. Maybe really play with it like it's a big ol'. He's barely able to control it and hold on to it. It's almost like he's gotten this at the fair and he's really excited about it. Right? But I thought it would be really funny if this really was a kids show. It would be, weekly adventures of, them keeping his identity secret, and maybe there's another camp nearby that's a rival camp, and maybe they have a zombie of their own. I've already come up with a name for that one, and maybe it's a girl zombie or something, and they like each other, but the kids are huge rivals, or like these two zombies get along really well, and he's Mr. Lurkin, she's Mrs. Skulkin or something. It'd be really funny. Um, one more up here, really make it ridiculous. Put a big chomp out of that. Like he's just been going after that top scoop. I just had ice cream tonight too, so it's fresh in my mind. And I like the idea of the eyes moving, maybe not independently, but maybe one eye follows the other, so you have one look and the other one follows a second later. I've seen them do that in cartoons, and it's hilarious because it really shows movement. It's really funny. Okay, so we're gonna. I toyed with the idea of giving him flip flops, but I'm like, yeah, it's too far. It's the Everglades. You're gonna get bit by a snake. So, I am going to do, and sometimes as a cop-out, I'm going to give him rubber boots instead of the lace-up boots. So I'm going to have his pants kind of bulging out. Yes, his little ice cream drip trail would be really great. That would be super funny. And he steps in it, so there's little ice cream footprints. Or big ice cream footprints or something. And everything's got the proper balance too. I want to make sure, it's the art side of me too wants to make sure all this works right. And right now his feet aren't working great, so I'm gonna do that again. And instead of erasing, I'm just gonna delete the dang things and start over. And Clip Studio Paint has this really cool thing where you can rotate the canvas at the click, and it does it in increments instead of Photoshop having it as a tool where you can just swirl it around. And I like it like that. Let's make and you can, with one button, you can send it back. I'm looking at it too much of a plane. Yeah, Crack Shoes doesn't work because he's not a tourist, and he's a cook. And remember, he's over 50 years old, so Crack Shoes didn't exist back then. I thought about it. I did, believe me. I want him to be more like a toxic cleanup kind of a suit-wearing guy. Like the kind of overalls you'd see, like the guys that come and clean up the crime scene on CSI. Or that maybe, a serial killer would wear. It gives you the idea that, to somebody other than the kids, he might be dangerous, like something like that. Man, I'm not liking that at all. Let me create another layer, go lighter, and then do a rough underneath it, and then really not liking the way that's going. Okay. Get scribbly as I want here and get it right. Yeah, it's better. Maybe give it more of a tread underneath, like a little. That kind of a thing. Except I realize that everybody else has got spindly legs. So let's try this. I don't want him to be as spindly as everybody else's, but I do want them to be in the same world. Like, again, I don't want to lose the fact that he's in this world, so we're gonna play a little. The other thing this program can do, and a lot of artists do this, is they'll reverse an image so that you can see the mistakes and I do it a lot. There's a button up here under the navigator. Yep. And there's plenty there. And then I can fix things. So the eye is a little funky. Looks almost modern art cubist version of himself. It's okay. With him it works. His feet, on the other hand, are not working. The angles are weird and funky, and this allows me the chance to fix it. Move it around my screen. I think, too, he is sitting at a weird angle. There we go. That's better. It was throwing off my eyes. I couldn't deal with it. Alright, now let me go back up to this. Flipping back. Much better. Still a little... Oop, wrong layer. Hello. It's really cool too, when you make a selection in here, it automatically brings up a little mini menu underneath of what all the stuff you can do with that selection, instead of having to click like 3 other buttons. It's really nice. Alright, so going back up to the main drawing layer, let me click this down even more. Huh, I created that layer and didn't use it as the rough. Do this. No, they're stuffed. I'll show you in just a second. Let me... They're stuffed into his boots. And I think, yeah, I think I'm going to go this route with the boots. I think that works better. Keeps the spindly leg thing going, but not too much. Yeah, I kept having to... that's better. I kept having to redraw the pants, so it got really rough. There we go. His shoes are just nondescript. They're just rubber shoes. Because imagine this too. He's stepping in the ice cream, and the sound of the ice cream in the bottom of the shoes squeaks. And how funny that would be in an episode. I also had this idea of all the episodes containing his name somehow. Like if you remember the 80s TV series, for those that were alive then, Remington Steele, it had his name Steele in every single episode name. And it would be really funny to have Lurkin somewhere in the name of an episode. And then I thought, well, that can almost be too much for itself. So I'm like, maybe do that with some episodes. That'd be really fun. You know, it's the little things that I think about while I'm drawing characters and just these funny little ideas. You know, not liking the stuffed pants thing. Again, all about... I think I'm going to keep the idea I had originally with the cuffs. Drop them down. Yeah, there we go. That's better. It adds... I don't know, it's more comedic to me with the legs coming out of that. Get rid of that layer. There we go. Do the little quick thing where I've changed to the transparent brush immediately, which is really nice. And forgot to change back. Now, to make it look like rubber, I just give it a little, you know, quick line of shine. So when I do this kind of rough shade, and I'll do a quick rough shade in there for you with the newsprint. Do it underneath it. There we go. Get to that in a second. I'll show you in just a second. Because everybody knows that rubber has qualities to it. I love how this thing layers on itself. This brush is so cool. A little darker. And go to white. And then come up here to the drawing. There we go. Now the rubber. Yeah, I didn't like the fact that the pants were stuffed into his boots. It didn't work for me. It's one of those, those design decisions you have. I really wish I could play music in the background for you guys, but I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. The other thing I'm not liking is the size, not of the ice cream cone, but of his hands. It's a little bit out of proportion to what I want to do. There we go. That's better. And it still works. That's better. His hand was just a little too big compared to everybody else's. When you look at Venny down here, imagine Venny is kind of a much cuter, much more innocent and sweet version of Joe Pesci. If he went to a kid's camp when he was little and he met a zombie, that's what he would be like. Very Joe Pesci-esque. So yeah, this is a much better version of Mr. Lurkin up here. I'm thinking we'll add a little bit of color, just like before, with the newsprint brush. There we go. Okay. He's got the ghastly green going on. He's not a mean guy, but he better get his ice cream. Bring the ice cream. I like the idea of playing with tropes, like of zombies and whatnot, or whatever, heroes the way heroes should be compared to how you're going to portray them. I love portraying tropes differently than what you expect and putting a twist on it. I've always enjoyed that. So that's what I'm doing with him. Yeah, same colors because the colors work. I like those colors. I'm going to give him a little bit of a dark green to his eyes. Now, what I am going to play with the buildings and the backgrounds and things like that is kind of these watercolor-esque backgrounds. Like, not everything's going to fit within lines and things like that. I've been working on some other paintings right now for another series that I can't talk about, but the color isn't precise on the lines. It's more sketchy, and I think that would be a lot of fun to play with on the backgrounds for this, because I always enjoyed. There's a cartoon that was out for a while called The Misadventures of Flapjack the Pirate, something like that. And I loved the way they did the backgrounds. They were a little more extreme than I would do them, but I love the idea of them. If you haven't seen that series, look it up. Yeah, I think you can watch it on Amazon Prime or Hulu or something like that. One of the ones that I have, I can't remember which one it is. No, it's a little too dark. Let me give him a little more gray. I'm not liking the black. I'll quick key back since it's easier than erasing. There we go. I don't mind leaving some of it in, but... and also, there's other... Oh, much better. That's much better. Okay. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends was another one that used kind of loose color backgrounds that I really liked. I thought those were done really well. All right, and we're looking for Jason Voorhees green for the pants. How about that? How about that for description? Yeah, they need to put that in a crayon box. Ooh, it's not green enough. Let's find that. It's kind of a bluish green, if you will. Just a little bit of one. Had a message come in. It popped up on my screen from my sister via text message. I glanced up and pushed too hard on the pen, so don't get distracted. It's a good lesson for it. If you hear little bings, that's her. That's my message. There we go. And maybe a bluish. Those sickly colors they would make people wear that are custodial people are cooks, you know, things like that that just kill me. I'm like, man, but it's great for this kind of design. It's almost indistinguishable, pardon me, from his skin. So I'm going to darken that just a little bit. I don't want it to be. And now you notice I'm doing color on him. It's because of his pallor. Like I want to show his zombiness with his skin tone and his pallor. It's important. Excellent. So obviously he's going to be very cool toned. And there needs to be, somewhere in there, there needs to be a counter color. I haven't decided where to put that yet. Maybe that'll be the ice cream. You know, or maybe I need to brighten up his tongue or something like that. That would be hilarious. There needs to be some pop of color somewhere. If you ever watch Gravity Falls, the hat, the design on the hat, this blue hat, you know, with a little tree on it, works. But all right, we're good on him. Yeah, let me add a little bit more. Give him a little bit more of a pink tongue. I think that will work better. Yeah, okay, that's better. Emphasizes the tongue a lot more. All right. If I was rendering him, I would do, you know, I would make his eyes look wet and all that fun stuff. But we're not going to do that right now. Because this isn't about illustration, it's about character design. It's about being able to show the essence of the character for presentation purposes. Depends on what you need it for. If you're just sketching just to get an idea of the character down to present to a client, this will work great. If you need something to present to actually have the show made, I would polish this up a lot more, make the lines super clean, and you know, have the color offset like I've been talking about, things like that. But this is great for concept work. This is exactly what we're doing. So a little bit more, and I think we'll be done for the night. Give him a zipper. Everybody needs a zipper. Maybe give him a little. I've got my palette down here from my Morbid Lease paintings of my creepy family, so that's why the palette's all like sepia tones and grays. I change it after I paint them all this too, but that's what I start with for those that are interested. Ooh, you know what? That's the actual drawing layer. I made a boo-boo. There we go. Okay. Too dark and too clean color. So his apron's actually more flesh tone. That's funny compared to his flesh. I don't care if the lines mess themselves up as I go over them. I like this kind of layered, rough, scribbly effect. It's kind of cool. A little stain here. And I can only imagine what his voice sounds like, you know, and instead of brains, you know, I would love it if he had a British accent. That would be hilarious. You know, not talking fast, but if he had, or an Irish accent would be amazing. That would be hilarious. You know, this weird camp cook that comes from Ireland to work at a camp in the Everglades, and then dies and turns into a zombie from eating expired ice cream. Only in a kid's cartoon can you pull that off. That's, you know, only. So we'll pop color onto his ice cream real quick. I'll start with this one right here. Give it all kinds of the brightness that he doesn't have at the moment. Kind of a mint green, maybe. I'm just roughly throwing color. I'm not trying to be precise. Throw a little of the stains down here on the ground, just for fun. Can make colors of ice cream that don't really exist in the world, that's fine. Maybe make one of them more of a swirl. Yeah, so we've got that going on. So that's how I work from a brief. Like I'll and I might augment, like I said, I'll augment and things like that. But this is kind of the color tone I'm looking for. I'm looking for these muted colors. I'm not looking for something super bright. And that's going to be the theme of the entire series. Now the difference between doing the backgrounds with that and the characters with that is the backgrounds are super rough and they've got more definition to them, things like that. The characters are going to be flat toned except for extreme lighting conditions, and they'll be more clearly defined so that it sets them apart from the background easily, but they still have the same design aesthetic. And we'll get into that as we go every Thursday. So next Thursday, I went over character briefs. I introduced you to Venny, I introduced you to Mr. Lorcan, I introduced you to Donna and Edsel, and we're gonna further explore these characters. I'll probably add Terry Ann into it, and I'll pull her back up again so you can see her. So there's Terry Ann. She's an assistant counselor, and she is the slave driver of the kids. That she's the bane of their existence as far as their everyday life goes. But the overall villain is going to be the camp director, taking these kids' money and then doing weird, deranged experiments with them. Or with not with the kids, but with the money, and that maybe that's how the zombie got created. He was experimenting on the food or something like that. I'm still coming up with the mythology of this series and what it does. But this is kind of like the start. This is the start, and I invite you guys to join me on it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be doing it every week. And it by the end of whenever it is the end. I'm going to have a cohesive Bible, if you will, like story Bible for what I want for a show. And I'm going to be devoting only the Thursday nights to it. I'll do a little bit of preliminary work just to prep for a show, but everything that you're going to see is going to be created here. And it's going to be done in a microcosm. We're not going to, it takes thousands of hours sometimes to create shows and things like that, and there's a bunch of different artists working on it, things like that. I'm giving you just a little snippet, glimpse of some of the work that I do with backgrounds and characters and whatnot, and world building, because this is world building. And in the way that I create my other series, like my tourists, when I go down to Disney and draw tourists, that that could turn into a series. I've got that set up so that would be a family that goes to on a different family vacation every season, and every season is a different summer, and it's a very mixed family. Got a lot of adopted kids, things like that, and it's really fun. I've got my McMorbidly series, which is this creepy fine art portrait collection that I sell as 5x7 prints at the shows that I go to, and each one has a card with their backstory on each character. And when I get up to 50, I'm going to do a family album book that's an art book that I'm going to do for sale. And I do all those in my time. I've got client work, wonderful client work right now that I love doing. I can't talk about it, but when I'm able to talk about it, you're going to be excited to hear what it's about. But I don't talk about anything that I'm not when I'm under contract. I wait until whatever I'm working on is published, then I can speak about it all I want. But it's going to be cool to be able to talk to you about the jobs that I'm working on. But for right now, on Thursday nights, this is where it's at. Camp Zombie, Thursday nights at 8 o'clock. I'll be talking about some of the other projects a little bit, like Aliens and Outlaws and the McMorbidleys and another, my Monty the Unfortunate Octopus series, off and on as we go. But the work that I'm doing is going to be all about Camp Zombie. So I invite you guys to join me, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell button, and I will be looking for you guys on Thursday night. And if you hit the bell button, it'll give you notifications. But keep subscribed, because you'll see the shows, the sessions every week kind of come up as scheduled. So thank you guys for joining me so much. We'll wrap it up here, and you guys have a great night, and I look forward to next week. See ya. God bless you and peace out.